Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Breaking Barriers. By the way, if you see me looking that way, it's looking at the camera.
Yeah.
And today's a cool, it's a good podcast actually. I met Simone out at Megan's wedding. Who's our CMO, and we vibed out. And before you know it, we started talking, kicking the can around, and then boom, here we are. And with Simone, obviously, we have Rod as well. And I can't do the justice to your guys' story and who you are. So can you just give us a brief, who are you, what do you do, and let's start there for the both of you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us, first of all.
Of course.
My name is Simone Sanvito. I work at Valley National Financial Advisors out in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm actually originally from Italy. I've been in the U.S. for about 10 years now. I originally came over for just an exchange student during high school, and then came back for college, went to Hofstra University for 5 years, and then I've been to at Valley National for the past 4 years almost.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a senior associate there, and so I help advisory teams as well as the investment department there.
Very cool. And how about you?
My name's Rod Young. Thanks for having me here today.
Of course.
And so I'm a senior vice president at Valley National, and I've got a lot of letters after my name, not terribly important. And I work mostly with individual clients, high net worth clients. My specialty over the years has been working with executives of Fortune 500 companies, helping them through their various stock compensation decisions, deferred compensation decisions, understanding all of their executive compensation packages.
Right.
And that has helped, has helped to build the, investment advisory side of the business.
Right.
Does John know our additional
Yes.
connection?
Yes.
So full disclosure, future son-in-law, father-in-law in
The dynamic duo.
in how many days?
1 month from yesterday.
1 month
So,
from yesterday.
Exactly.
A
1 month.
twice postponed event, courtesy of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
So so that's our connection, and it's great to bring Simone into the organization.
Yeah. So let's start there, right? So before we get into the nitty gritty, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times people talk about how it's so challenging to work with family or friends, things like that of that nature. This is a different level, right?
Right.
So how has it been for you guys? How do you guys keep that professional balance and then that personal balance?
Sure. Maybe you should leave the room, and then I'll go first.
Yeah, look, we're recording. This is actually a deposition.
Actually, I'll speak first.
Yeah, you go first, yeah.
And so I probably went into it with a little bit of trepidation, obviously.
Naturally.
Because dual relationships can become, challenging, right? And I think it's been remarkably easy to be perfectly honest with you. And I don't feel like it's really, I think we separate work
The two
and personal really, really easy.
Right.
And at 4 o'clock at the office, we can be in intense discussions about some client or another, and at 5 o'clock, after work for a beer or a cocktail, that's it's
Separate,
it's totally separate. So
I think
it's been remarkably easy from my perspective.
Yeah, we also do a good job. We're part of a bigger team, so a lot of the conversations that might happen work-related, maybe I'll have them with someone else rather than directly with them. We still
Like squash.
we still do that, but we try to maybe I'll check in more with someone who's not. I don't have that dual relationship with.
And that, I think that's a good way
helps,
to approach it.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it's so funny. Some people listening are probably like, they're out of their effing mind.
Yeah,
because so many people experience the complete opposite, right? So I'm on the other side where my wife is my CFO.
Yeah.
My brother works for the company.
Okay.
I have a cousin that works for the company. So I'm somebody who doesn't think that it's that challenging.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously family, friends, whatever it is, when you do it the right way, as long as you set the expectations coming in.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You set the tone the right way, then boom. As long as all parties are respectful and we're off the same mission, we're climbing the same mountain.
Right.
We should be good, right?
Hey, there might be certain family members I wouldn't want to work with. I'm not going to.
Let's get that list rolling.
I'm not going to say any of those names today. So no.
That's awesome. But thank you guys for that.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
Such a good dynamic. So, and obviously, one of the things I wanted to jump on too, though, was how was it? So, for people that are listening in here, obviously, we have people that are listening in outside the country too. Some people that might want to live in the U.S., right? So, how was that? Getting adjusted for you, like coming 10 years obviously is a decent time.
Decent time, yeah.
But is that difficult, like being away from your family? Like how did you get into boom? I'm moving to America and I'm not coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I did a year abroad, as I said, in my junior year of high school. I've always kind of been attracted to moving to the U.S. I visited when I was 12 with my family, and I just always kind of liked it. And then I had this opportunity to study abroad when I was 16. And, I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of step outside my comfort zone and experience something new. And I found
comfort zone. Love it.
I found a great host family. They were really, really great. And then, it took maybe 6 months or so to get adjusted to the cultural differences and everything like that. But everyone's been very supportive of me over here and my parents too. So it's not terribly hard to go back and see them. I get to see them maybe 2 or 3 times in Italy, and 2 or 3 times they come over here every year, except for COVID.
Right.
But yes, it takes a little bit. And there's definitely some cultural adjustments, but
what was that's what I asked. What was the biggest cultural adjustment for you?
It's a good question.
Is there anything that stands out?
I think I get this question a lot. I think it's mostly small differences that add up,
right?
As opposed to one big thing that stands out.
One thing for me. So when with my agency, when we started to go out into different countries. My executive coach, luckily, thank God I have him. He's a saint, but he's lived in different countries. He lived in Asia for, over 15, 20 years. Anyway, so I am a super high energy, and I also because most business owners that I deal with and talk to, they all have sailors' mouths. So over the years, I started my company when I was 17. So I've been working with these guys, and ladies for a long time, and they're no nonsense, don't give a you-know-what. So when I started to work in Asia and other European countries, they were so the culture shock for me cursing was such a big deal because it's so disrespectful in other countries. And it's dirty. It's why is he talking like that?
Interesting.
So not that I lived in another country, but it's just one thing for me that stood out was maybe it was the way that people talk in slang here, right? When you're learning a language. Right, right now I'm focused on learning Portuguese. My family's Portuguese. And when I'm reading things, it's almost I had the picture in my head. I'm reading things out of a dictionary almost, and I'm going to talk so properly in this other country where they're "Yo, what's up, my man?" And I don't know how to say that. I'm talking "Hey, what's up, my friend?" It's so different, right? So did anything like that stand out to you, or is it just kind of
a little bit? One, it's a funny example is people. I remember in high school, they would ask "What's up?" and then walk away, and I'm because you use WhatsApp as hey,
yes.
And I was
where are you going?
People are asking me a question and they
it's so common. That's actually such an interesting thing though, because people do that. I do that. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, and now I do it too. But that was a small one that I remember.
It's fluff, just what's going on.
Yeah.
So did somebody pull you aside?
Yes.
Related to the international potty mouth, so to speak?
So,
hey, do you know?
I was on a Zoom call, and I had this really important meeting. I was on a call with the board of my client, or my client's board, better yet. And so when I speak to my client, he's an Asian American, but he has he'll be oh, F this, F that, whatever, right? So I'm okay, So I'm talking to them. The meeting's going great, and then we get to one point when I get really passionate, I tend to curse, and so I was talking about this one thing we're going to be doing for them, and then I cursed, and then you saw 10 people in the room were you saw eyebrows move And then at the end of it, he approached me and was like, listen, you have to be careful when you're in different countries, like for instance, like when you're in certain countries, even in Europe, it's offensive to tip a waiter.
Right.
You know, like I never knew that.
Yeah.
Until I was in Paris and I was like trying to tip the person and it was like, they like scoffed at me. I was like, sorry.
Right.
You know, like, but it's like that. So he pulled me aside and just gave me like the lowdown. He's like, be careful.
Yeah.
You can't just curse because to them that's like super foul.
Yeah.
So I was wondered to ask that question, somebody who's, moved to the States. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I want to ask you this question first and I'll dive to you, but
Okay.
what is it about the financial industry that you love, right? So you've been doing it for 30 years plus,
Yeah.
right? So that's a long time. That's your career. That's a career, right?
Yep. It
So
is. Yep.
what got you into the finance industry, and then what has kept you in the finance industry?
I think what got me into the finance industry was it was total accident. It was completely unplanned as a young man.
Yep.
And just talking to friends, kind of like drifting, not sure what I wanted to do, to be perfectly honest with you. And someone one day said to me, you really seem to have an aptitude for. And I said, okay. And so one thing led to another and got a degree in accounting and
then boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so no big grand plan since when I was a little kid or something. I was going to take over the
finance game,
financial world.
Right.
What keeps me in it is that it's different every single day. The news changes every single day.
Right.
Regulations change all the time.
Right.
Tax laws change all the time.
Right.
Every person's individual circumstance is different. Can you apply the same
formula?
To different individual situations, absolutely. But everybody, it needs to be applied maybe slightly differently for every single person.
Right.
So I think that's what keeps me in it is the constant change, the challenge of keeping up with that change.
Right.
So it is very hard, I think, to be lazy in the financial business.
Right.
At least in
Keeps you
the way that I
doing
operated.
things.
Yeah, operated.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. And what about the people though? Like, so when it comes to the people, when it comes to that space, right?
Yep.
So over 30 years, obviously,
Yep.
you've met a lot of people.
Yep.
What has that been like?
Yeah, the people. So the challenge of it is fun and kept me in it. Probably even more so than the people.
Right.
To get right down to it.
Yeah.
And that's actually that's a better answer to the question.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest
Yeah.
with you. So it's the people I work with, people I partner with, and then of course the people that are clients.
Right.
I've got client relationships that go back 30 plus years.
Right.
And their kids become clients and so on.
That's really cool though.
That's really valuable.
That is cool.
And I have clients around the country. I travel around the country. Many clients will put me up in their home when I come to see them. And
that's remarkable.
That's a special relationship.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place in the country you've been to visit a client?
I've been to a few good places. Southern California has been a good place to
SoCal
to visit. Yeah. Love the Salt Lake City area. Didn't really know a lot about it, but I've been going out there for a long time.
Right.
So I'd say those are at least getting off the East Coast and heading west.
Right.
Those have been good places.
Just to get away, get off the East Coast for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
then I'm always up and down.
Right.
Every financial advisor in the United States has somebody in Florida, right? So
You gotta be there.
Gotta be there. So, anyway.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
And how about yourself? Obviously, direct connection here, right? But
Yeah. So in terms of getting into the industry, similar to his answer, I never really had a plan from when I was younger. Nobody in my family is involved in this type of business. My dad has a recording studio, and my mom's a dentist. So I had two potential businesses that I could have taken over, but it just wasn't for me. Actually, I was interested in the music aspect of things. I actually went to college for. I was a music major and a business major at first. Decided to drop the music major after a week. I've been playing drums since I was 10 or so, but never really studied music. And that wasn't something that I was really interested in.
Right.
So I still just kind of play drums on the side, but I decided to focus on business, and I just took classes in different areas and just kind of found an interest in accounting and finance. So I actually have a double major in both. And then in terms of working, I actually did 2 internships with Valley National before I graduated during college, and that's it.
So you were an intern and then boom, jumped right in.
I was an intern for 2 summers, the last 2 summers of college, and then I just, as soon as I graduated, basically, I started that fall.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're modest, I think, when you talk about, I do drums on the side, by the way. He's really quite the accomplished drummer.
Wow.
And, if you do another podcast someday in the future and have him bring his drums in.
Honestly, we might have to have that at your place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you've been playing since you were 10?
About 10, yeah. Been taking lessons.
Wow, so you've been playing for a while.
Yeah.
And now your dad has a recording studio, but does he also play? I'm assuming he plays different instruments, obviously.
He was a guitar player, yeah.
Okay.
But he doesn't really play too much anymore. But yeah, he has like a recording studio and like rehearsal rooms for bands to practice in.
Got it.
So and he's had that for over 30 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where in Italy is that?
We are from originally the Milan area.
Okay, got it.
A little
Very
north
cool.
of Milan, yeah.
So have you picked up any advice? So both of your parents own their own businesses?
Yes.
So mom owns her own dental practice, and then, okay. Has there been anything that you learned from your parents over the years where you're like, wow, that's really good advice in terms of business?
It's a good question. I feel like they never really actually shared too much with me. I also feel like my mom is like very focused on the like day-to-day work rather than growing the business. I feel like she kind of focused on doing good work and then people will come.
Yep.
Rather than like client outreach or like, marketing or other things like that. So I don't know if I have anything valuable really to share,
That really
unfortunately.
stood out.
Yeah.
So you work with obviously a lot of high net worth people. So over the years, you picked up anything that like was like, wow, even if it was like an adage or like a quote or something that really stood out to you.
Boy, that's I probably have a few favorites. One client I recall, buy all of your toys with cash is one of my favorites.
I like that.
Another one, I think, is president of a utility company. This is way back in my 20 years back earlier in my career when I was actually taking over the company that I was with at the time, and his advice was and he had known me for a few years, and was just be yourself, and you will be fine. You're genuine. You come across so natural. You're not, and this is utility company in Jersey, and he said you're not one of these. And
salesman.
Yeah. Slick
stereotypical.
types. Exactly. And said so that I thought that was great advice early in my kind of earlier in my career.
Yeah, and honestly, I gotta say it's so true. Just from my experience, like in my experience, when I started the company, I was a kid, I was 17.
Yep.
It was hard to gain people's trust. So I put on this like
17,
bravado.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, thank you. But like when I was going to these places in a suit, knocking on a pizzeria's door in a suit, like they were like, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on here? Like, you want us some pizza? What are you doing?" But over the years, I've gotten advice similar to that. And the more that I've become myself over the past 12 plus, 13 plus years, I built better relationships.
Yeah.
People want to work with real people.
Right. Exactly.
People don't want to work with people where it's like, hey, your hair's out of place or something, and they don't tell you because they don't hurt your feelings, versus them be like, hey, your hair's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like you'd rather people just tell you the truth and be themselves, and I think that wins overall.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears. I want to talk about, again, right now, a lot of the questions that we got in, anytime we have financial guys or ladies on, a lot of time people want to talk about what's going on in the economy.
Yeah.
Can you provide any insight?
Oh, it's been a challenge. Needless to say, it's been a challenging year.
Yeah.
And everybody knows all the buzzwords and challenges that we're facing. I just filled up my, my gas tank before I, drove over here today, and it only needed to fill it up about 2/3, and it was $70-some to fill it up. So,
Right.
High gas prices seem to be going up every day. Inflation, a concern. Stock market's down this year, and then maybe the biggest kick in the teeth is that not only is the stock market down this year, but the bond market's down this year.
Right.
And so that whole approach of traditional asset allocation,
The safe bets.
60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. When your stocks are down, your bonds are going to hold their own, earn a
Correct.
couple percent, and it kind
Correct.
of mitigates the whole stock mess.
Right.
That didn't happen this year.
Right.
And that's the first time, for many people, it's never happened in their lifetime.
Have you seen this happen before in your career?
Not in my professional lifetime,
Wow.
no, not to this extent,
Yeah.
where both markets like that are down to the
Right.
degree that they are. And that's what's caught individual investors, I think, the most by surprise, is that not only are their stocks down, but the U.S. bond market's down almost 10% this year. That sounds like a stock number.
Yeah.
Does.
So,
Which normally is crazy because it's not. Typically.
right.
So let me ask you a question. So
Yeah.
so on that topic, right?
Yep.
I love understanding when how we deal with client conflict, right? So or like upsetness.
Yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
for instance, like if I'm one of your clients, this stuff's it's not the market's not performing, the bonds aren't performing, whatever.
Yep.
How do you handle a disgruntled client that's like, Rod, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like,
What'd you do?
what are you
Or
doing?
what did you do,
broke,
or what did you
broke the
not
bond.
do
Not
that
do.
you should have done?
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
So how do you handle that?
I
And I'm
don't.
gonna ask you the same question after.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that I haven't had any disgruntled clients, but
Or even just upset.
yeah, but it has been remarkable so far, at least with the people that I work with, how, unless they're lying to me, how relatively calm they seem to be through all of this.
Right.
But still, you've got to deal with the conflict, and all you could, the best way that I think to deal with it, you just got to be honest with them, and you just have to say, look, this was the strategy, and recall we did take these steps
Right.
in anticipation of some of what is going on.
Right.
And here, this is the world we're now in, and what do we now need to do to adjust going forward? Is there
Right.
anything else we can do, should be doing? And I think once you just have that kind of conversation with people, it kind of settles them
Right.
down.
Right.
And you tell them by the way, we came up with this plan. We've had a plan for years. And yes, this is a pullback in your plan on paper, but you are still on track. Your ability to meet your long-term goals hasn't been,
Right.
compromised.
Right.
So I think people just need to hear.
Right. The truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's interesting that people don't how like a dentist or a doctor, you're in that title. It's called you're a practicing physician, right? Because there's no definitive things because body changes, things happen, right? So they use the term practicing.
Yep.
It's interesting they don't do that for financial because
I know.
and it's such a different landscape at all times. Like you said, every day is different. There's different stuff going on.
Yep.
So it's interesting that people don't utilize a practicing financial, person, right?
It's more uncertain than medical
Yeah.
in some
Right,
respects, right?
right.
Sorry, doctors, you probably disagree with me completely, but I can't tell you what the stock market's going to do the next hour, tomorrow, the next day,
Right.
next month or next year.
Right.
I don't know what is going to come out of nowhere that we can't see right now. A year ago, who would have thought Russia, I guess there were a few people who were saying this is a problem, but who, generally speaking,
Yeah.
who would have thought Russia would be invading Ukraine and they'd be talking about food shortages, or you don't know where the next uncertainty is going to come from.
Right.
And that makes the financial world it's scary to some people.
Of course.
all that uncertainty, so to speak. So
Right.
to have somebody at least who is thinking about it every day, looking at it every day,
Right.
reading every day, listening every day, and trying to navigate it the best they can
Yeah.
for you.
And in your role, are you outward facing? Like, do you work with client base, or is it mainly internal?
I don't have any clients of my own at the moment. I do have some interactions with clients in the firm sometimes. I haven't really had any like portfolio discussions with clients.
Right.
But that's coming.
But yeah, it's coming. I've had like some minor questions or things like that. I think going off of what he was saying, the most important thing is really have them focus on a long-term plan rather than what's happening today. Like, as long as you have enough money to cover your expenses, or you're allocated properly with all your investments and bank accounts and whatnot. I think as long as you have a long-term plan, it will be easier to go through fluctuations.
Right.
That could last a few days, a year, or when COVID happened, you got calls every day, and then and then it got resolved.
Understandably
And then
so.
it got resolved
Every
in
day.
like a month and a half.
Yeah.
I would love to
So.
see the phone bill.
Yeah, it was a remarkable time. It was a remarkable time for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
And all of us suddenly having to close up shop, and you got a company with 40 employees or 400 employees or 4,000 employees, and you suddenly have to have them all working remotely, and within a 24-hour time frame. Quite a challenging environment.
Hey, we had a shift like that. Now, did you guys go remote, and are you still remote?
We shifted remote within literally a
Had to right away.
1 to 2 day time period. Boom, we were closed up and everyone was working remotely. It went remarkably seamlessly. Obviously glitches. There's always little glitches. We are still, I'll say, we are kind of pseudo remote. We're on average, each member of the team's in the office maybe 2 days a week.
Right.
And remote.
But now, is that by like up to them, or is it's like you got to be in the office twice?
It's still our company policy.
So 2 days a week minimum.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't even know if I want to use the word fascinating, but when it first I'm a very old school guy, so when this first thing happened, and it was like, oh, we're gonna be remote for a week to 2 weeks, quite literally on that. So we found everything out Friday, right? There's a picture of us. One of my staff members went out and got a case of Corona beers, and we cheersed, thinking this is gonna be over in a week.
See you in a week or two.
See you guys in a week.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, I have my executive team like, we need to prepare for foreseeable future
Yeah.
that we're gonna be remote.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way people are gonna be doing their jobs. I was totally against it
Yeah.
because it's like, how could they work if they're not here? You're gonna be distracted.
Yeah.
And it went off without a hitch, and it's been awesome ever since. So
Yeah.
now we call it remote work optional.
Yeah.
So if they
I
want
know,
to
that's
come
a
into
good
the
way to do
office,
it. Yeah, a good way to call it.
come
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
But if not. But
Yeah.
you got to think about these guys in New York. So one of our clients in New York I think his rent is $150,000 a month,
I can only imagine. Yeah.
and now nobody's coming in. I don't care how big your company is. 150K is 150K.
Yeah.
You know. So I can't even imagine in major cities like that where, again, Google pulled, for now, like, a lot of these big companies, they realize you don't have to be in an office.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even for a financial firm to do only 2 days a week, it's a bold.
It's been very educational. I mean, I actually used to think that I would hate working from home. I'm old school, like you.
Mm-hmm.
I like, and I also am fortunate. I have like a 7-minute commute, so that's
Beautiful.
that is the
Yeah,
best.
so do I, by the way.
Yeah.
It's literally 7 minutes. It's wild.
It's the best. But I like going to the office every day. I like interacting with people.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, full disclosure, it's not so bad getting up in the morning and knowing I don't have to
Get ready, run out of the house.
exactly. Yeah. So I actually like the balance.
Do you find yourself being in only 2 days a week?
I think some days, some weeks I'm in 3 or 4 days. Other weeks I might go in. I'm in 1 day. On average, it's probably two. Yeah, it's probably right down the middle.
How about you?
I'm probably in 2.5.
I usually do about 2 days and
2 days.
3 at home. Yeah.
What room in your homes do you guys work in?
Yeah.
I have like a spare like bedroom office that
have
I
an
just
office?
turned. Yeah.
Now, is Grace in your office in there too? You guys working together in there?
No, she goes in every day.
Oh, so she's
So,
okay. She's
yeah.
not remote.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about you? So where's
I have a-
your war room?
Yeah, I've got a nice home office up. I had to set it up. Didn't have it before, right? But it's up on the third floor of our
Okay.
house. Got an old home, and it's nice tucked away. My wife works her office is on the first floor. I'm on the third floor.
far
we
as
we can go all day
possible.
long without seeing each other.
Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
When we first, my wife and I first started working together, it was actually right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, we're not going to worry about it because I'm always on the road anyway. Boom, COVID happens. Now we're in the house, and she set up her battle station upstairs. I set up my battle station downstairs. And the same thing, we cracked up because we were like, I thought we're going to be sick of each other because we're sitting each other, in the same house, the same, all day long.
Yeah.
But literally, I never see her.
Never see
Yeah.
each other.
And it just works.
Yeah.
But it is so educational. It's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
This whole experience.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things I think that a lot of people like yourself who've been in a field for 30 years where like you said you're traveling, you're going to this place, you're in that place, like it's crazy that you can do major deals and you don't have to be in person.
Right.
Like people would fly, like again, I remember when I signed one of my clients, they flew from China to come here to sign everything and to get everything set up.
Yep.
And it was like that was just normal. Like, yeah, come out, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when I even suggest that, they're like, I'm not flying to you. What do you mean? I'm not coming to you.
Right.
I can't even get clients now to do that, like in Jersey.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, oh, you're half an hour away. I'm not coming. Just pop on Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
Let's go on Zoom.
Exactly.
So the world has changed
It has.
big time.
Yeah, I find myself going to the office, and then you're in the office and you're on Zoom calls with other people in the office.
Right.
You're doing the same, right?
Isn't that
You're doing the same thing you could have did at home. It's interesting, right? It's crazy. So, in any way that you can, right? What would be a piece of advice for somebody who wants to get in the financial industry? Where to start? What to do?
Yeah. You've gone
Yeah.
into it more recently.
From the intern to boom.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I would say definitely get exposed to a working environment as soon as you can through internships, whether you can do it during the school year or during the summer is probably better. So get that exposure. And then one thing I was trying to figure out when I graduated was whether I wanted to work for a small business or for a larger firm. And I did interviews with like big accounting firms and finance firms, but I just felt like I wouldn't have as much of an impact in a big firm
right.
as I would have had in a small business.
Yeah.
So maybe try to figure out which route you want to go. I mean, there's people that do great in either. I just felt like me personally, I wanted to go into a smaller team and smaller firm where I could have more of an impact as opposed to being one of 5,000 people that got hired,
Just another number.
that summer, right?
Right.
So I feel like that's definitely something that should be considered. Yeah, I think that's it for the most part.
So getting real life experience in it. I think that's great. How about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with what Simone said. When you're in school, if you can get an internship or two, I think that's I
Key.
think that's critical. And then when you start your career and early in your career, I think the value of professional mentor, a senior colleague, owner of the business you're working for, partner, whatever. I think having a mentor early in your career can really, really help.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And, so right now with us with Adapting Social, this year, one of the things that we're saying is you guys do you know what a Sherpa is?
A Sherpa?
A Sherpa.
I mean, I know what it is in the traditional sense.
Well, I'm saying,
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
So most people don't, unless you summit and climb.
Yeah.
So I watched one of these movies that were out on Netflix of this guy who climbed like the most, I think it was 17 of the tallest mountains in the quickest time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was so inspired by it, and so I brought it in. But one of the things that he talks about is that they have these Sherpas that essentially at let's call it like the basic mountains that everybody loves, like Mount Everest, right? they have these Sherpas just sitting there that like help you and that have been up that mountain 1,000 times, know what it's like, know what's going to happen, and they're going to make sure you don't die.
Yep.
So in the work world, professional world, I always share with my team, like, you have to find a Sherpa.
Yeah.
It's been up that mountain.
I like using that term.
Yeah.
Instead of mentor, I think that's fantastic.
Because it's kind of giving it a little bit more pizzazz, I guess, instead of just like go find a mentor, right? It's like who has been through that mountain 1,000,000 times and can give you some real life advice, right?
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and so but from a mentorship perspective, I think that's one of the biggest things. I think when people are early on in their careers, even later in careers, right? Like you finding somebody who's been through it gives you so much. Advantage. And one of the, I don't know if you guys ever read or are into Stoic philosophy, but I love Stoic philosophy. Okay. And one of the best, this quote got me into Stoic philosophy, which is any fool can learn from his own mistakes, but it takes a wise man to learn from somebody else's. Right. And when I read that, I was like, wow, that's impactful. Right. So again, if somebody else got burned by fire, you're not going to touch it. Right, so it's like finding that mentor. I think is so important for especially anybody in career development, because you could help and learn a lot from that.
Oh yeah, let's face it. There are people who tread paths before us, and tread similar paths that we're trying to tread, and why wouldn't we try to learn from their mistakes?
100%. Yeah. And so as we get close to the end here, one of the things I want to ask the both of you. I'll start with you, Simone. What is your morning ritual / evening ritual that essentially sets you up for success for your day?
Okay, so I'm not.
And some people don't have them, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not much. Yeah, I'm not much of a morning person.
Okay.
Much more of a night person. But I do like at night trying to set up my day for the following day. So just trying to figure out what I have to do, whether it's work related or not, and just kind of come up with a plan of what the next day is going to look like. Since I'm not a morning person, I'd rather wake up and know what I'm going to do rather than having to wake up earlier and trying to figure it out.
Right. So what's your bedtime? Like, do you like a set time you typically go to bed?
It's usually probably around midnight. I'm also studying for the CPA, so it could be 1 a.m. sometimes, or it kind of depends. But I would say usually between 11 and midnight. Okay. And then I usually get up at 7-ish if I'm working on weekends. 9.
So between 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
On weekdays it's around 7, I would say. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So are you like a morning, gotta have coffee in the morning, like that type deal, or no?
No coffee.
Yeah, I'm not a coffee guy either.
No, I'll have like an espresso usually if I go like mid-afternoon. I'll have one, but I'm not a coffee person in the morning. Not like Rod.
So, is there anybody that you're inspired by right now that you're like really into? Whether it's it could be like a Tesla, Elon Musk, or like a book you're reading or anything.
Reading is definitely something I have to get into. I was never much of a reader, but I feel like it's growing on me the itch. Yeah.
But it's so good for the mind. Yeah.
So that's definitely something I have to work on, and I will. But in terms of personalities, I can't think of anyone really that inspired me. I feel like I'm more inspired by like people I know rather than like big celebrities or
that works too. Yeah.
So I don't really have like anyone specific. It might be like like if I got a friend that achieved something that will inspire me, reach the goal or whatever it might be. So I feel like I'm more driven by that rather than like someone I don't know about. I mean, could be the greatest person in the world, but I feel like I get more if I have a personal connection or a closer connection to them.
Got it. Okay. So how about you? How about your routines?
I'm sitting here trying to come up with the perfect answer on who inspires me. No. Morning routine is simple. Shower, and I need that cup of coffee to get the brain going and get the body going. And
Are you a multiple coffee a day guy?
I am. Yeah, I mean, I'm usually, I'm done by noon, but
Okay.
occasional days I might drink some afternoon coffee.
Okay.
But I love that first sip of coffee.
Are you
I do.
And how do you drink your coffee?
That's a great question. So I used to drink it, pour a lot of half and half into it, and then about 5.5 weeks ago, I stopped putting half and half in, and just went total just black coffee.
Wow.
And I actually now couldn't see myself going back
Really?
to putting cream in. Yeah.
But you're still enjoying the flavor?
I love it. Yeah, I might even love it more. I'm very surprised.
You can actually taste the coffee
I never
now?
thought I would. I never thought I would do that. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
So my wife does the same thing.
Okay.
I don't drink coffee at all, 0%. Like
Yeah.
I never drink coffee, right? So, but like the people around me that typically do drink it, like my sister, or my dad, like drink it. It's almost like equivalent, like the times that I have drank coffee in my life. If I do have a coffee, it's like I'm having creamer with a little coffee in it.
Yeah.
That's how much creamer that I'll have. Like I like sweet, like French vanilla. Like,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
sweet. I love it. So sugary.
Yeah.
But my wife drinks it super, super black. I thought she was like crazy, but apparently a lot of people like it.
Yeah. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you have like a go-to? Like, it's like I go to Starbucks or I go to Dunkin' Donuts or I have like an espresso machine or a K-cup. Like, what's your thing?
We did a kitchen reno a few years back, and we have this wonderful Miele.
Oh, nice. Those are nice.
coffee system. And
There
it
you
makes,
go.
It makes a really nice.
Is it?
nice
Yeah.
cup of coffee. So
That's
I
really
like
cool.
doing it.
So we I don't even know where it is now. We at one point, so when we had our huge office with everybody in it, my team convinced me to get this like insane multi-$1,000 espresso coffee blah 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 machine, and it's crazy. People like most people just enjoy going out to get coffee, right? Like I realized that, so I bought this crazy thing. People utilize it. They'll use it once in a while, but they still want to go out and buy coffee.
Yeah.
So I was curious, like to ask that question. Now, if you guys, so you drink espresso, don't really drink coffee, but if you do go out, what's your preferred coffee?
I'd probably Starbucks.
Starbucks?
Yeah, probably Starbucks, but I'm not opposed to, Dunkin'. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
And
Starbucks.
a good dark roast is always the way to go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all right. So now, oh wait, who's inspiring you?
Oh gosh, it's interesting when you talked earlier about the guy who's got the Sherpa and done the
Yes. Yes.
because I do a lot of backpacking and I've done some winter mountaineering and what have you.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if there's any individual in that realm that has inspired me. Although I'm a huge fan of John Krakauer, and if you haven't read it, you should read Into Thin Air.
Okay. It's called Thin Air.
Into Thin Air.
Into Thin Air.
It's one of the most intense mountaineering books and stories you'll ever read. It's about a disaster on Mount Everest. And so I think I'm just inspired generally by, you use the word stepping out of comfort zone early on in this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just inspired by stories of, but then by trying myself to step out into situations that are outside of my comfort zone.
That are easy.
Seeing how I perform, and I think that's what inspires me to keep trying to push myself.
Yeah.
One of my dream trips right now is to go backpacking down inside the Grand Canyon, for example. And that'll be a different type of trip from what I've done before.
Right.
We had one scheduled, and then the temperatures in the canyon were 110 degrees. So we said,
No, thank you.
no, we're not going to do that. Let's do it. When I can handle 90 degrees or 85.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. It's not fun when you're doing that.
Yeah, that's like.
Anyway, so that kind of thing, just being out there and trying some things that a lot of people don't try to do. That to me is inspiring.
And I love that, and I love that you brought up comfort zone, the both of you in this conversation, because it's so like, again, our reptilian brains are set to make sure that we're safe, and that we're in, again, our comfort zone is primarily to keep us safe. So when you think about going outside the box, taking a risk, whether it's investment or whether it's starting a business or doing failing or whatever, being scared to fail, so many people never take those chances to jump out of it. So it's interesting. I love that inspires you.
Yeah.
All right, so last round, but this is where we're gonna get deep.
Uh-oh.
So I hope you guys are ready for this. So I think I'm gonna start with you first on this one, though.
Okay.
All right. give someone a couple seconds to think.
I'm scared.
I don't know what's
What's
I'm
coming.
wondering what's coming here. Yeah.
This is always a good one. Okay,
Yeah.
so two questions. So first, if you could frame out like some sort of original Rod life quote that you've picked up maybe over the years that super inspires you, adage, whatever, and life, so not just business, obviously, what would that quote be?
Oh my gosh.
And it could be a Rod original.
Oh my gosh. Well, from a work professional perspective, I've been asked this question so many times. Not the question you just asked me, but I've been asked the question, it's funny that this is what pops into my brain in response. I've been asked so many times, how much do I need to save for retirement?
Right.
And so very early on, my response became just save as much as you can for as long as you can. So that's I consider that to be a Rod original.
The Rod original,
quote
I like it.
when it comes to retirement savings. From a personal perspective, gosh, I don't know if I can think of trying to think of a specific quote or thought. I think it comes back to this just pushing yourself and trying to do things that are
Outside your comfort zone.
Outside your comfort zone. I choose to do those things more on the personal side of my life than on the professional side.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's where I get that. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I have a specific quote for you on that one, John.
Yeah. So that was the easy question.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask you that one too. I'll give you some more time.
Okay.
So what would you say for that?
I would say, we've been talking about comfort zones and all that. I would say, not everybody has the opportunity to go outside their comfort zones. I feel like so. I feel like take the opportunity when you have it to do something different and challenge yourself and go out of your out of your bubble, whether it's work related or not.
Right.
I would say.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. A Simone original. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the
what's
one
the next one?
This is the one that always gets my podcast guests. So we've had some interesting characters on our podcast over the years, and this always stumps everybody. So I'll start with you again. So obviously, one of the biggest things that when we talk about our podcast and have people on, it's about learning, growing, development, understanding other people's journeys so they can learn from it. So I like to talk about like legacy, right? And one of the things that early on, like that I was kind of like put in a position with, I think I was like high school. My teacher gave me this project, and it's like reverse engineering your legacy, right? So, like, essentially, most people say, "Oh, well, I want to do this in my lifetime and whatever, whether it's kids, and then go to the Grand Canyon, do this, whatever else, whatever, right?" But at the end of the day, right, there's one thing that lasts on this planet for thousands of years, if not more, and it's your gravestone. What would your gravestone say? You have to remember now. It says he was a loving father, a great person, whatever. Like, if it was up to you, because that's your legacy, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Future generations are going to come see that, and that's what they're going to see, right? So, if you had to say that today, what do you think that would say?
I'd want to see the word loyal or loyalty on it, and perhaps humility.
So he was loyal, right? So like you have to picture it like it's like reading it out, right? So like, Rod Young was a loyal, a person of humility, right?
Yeah.
Father.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I would say like one of my biggest values is family. So I would probably tie it into that. I feel like everything we do with work and outside of work, I feel like it always ties back to either providing for someone or, I don't have a family, I don't have kids yet, but I can see myself, kind of doing that like my parents have done with me, like you've done with, you and Lori have done with your kids. So I would say like, just caring, generous, and I don't know if I have a third one. Yeah, just I like Loyal from Rod.
Yeah, that's deep, right?
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it's such a I think a good question though, and it's a really, it makes you really think though, because it's like a lot of times we think of what we want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes reverse engineering it, framing it that way, right? At the end of the line, you know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting though, because you learn the most from people. Like one of the things that my family and I have done for years is we go to like these senior citizen homes or the hospitals where like a lot of these older people don't have family anymore.
Yeah.
And so like we'll go talk to them on certain holidays and bring them gifts and stuff. And you just learn so much from people that are at that point, 80, 90 years old, and they're giving their perspectives. And then you start to think that way because it's like, boom, at one point they were our ages.
Yeah.
And they were talking ambitiously about doing X or being X.
They can be our Sherpas.
Yeah, exactly what we need.
Right?
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. This was truly an honor to have you guys both come here today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the things we always say to people is, time is the one asset, speaking of financial, right?
Yeah.
It's the one asset we don't get back. So you spending it here with us today really means the world to us. And where can people find you guys? If they ever want to interact with you, website, social, email, the whole thing.
Sure, they can find us at valleynationalgroup.com. And they can find us in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
PA.
Yeah.
And how about you? Feel free to share.
Yeah, same website, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is Simone Sanvito, and Facebook's just my name, Simone Sanvito. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yeah.